Greetings, State Representative STACY TRAVERS. I'm making this video for you. It's best that you see my face. Texting is, a little informal, and we really don't get the emotion, or it's just very difficult to get a point across when we're texting or emailing. So I'm making this video for you. First of all, thank you for your service. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your friendship. You've been very kind to me, and I appreciate that. And I got your back. Anything I say is not directed against you per se, and I want you to know it's not personal. I have a high respect for you, having served in the military. And some of the positions that you take, I highly respect. This issue that we're talking about today goes far beyond friendship, goes far beyond anything. It goes to the essence of, are we going to be a society that's humane, or are we going to be a society that's anarchy, savages, uncaring, selfish. That's what it boils down to. Are we going to be caring, compassionate, kind? Are we going to love thy neighbor as thyself? Are we going to love others as Christ loves us? Are we going to be a good Samaritan with a willingness of placing service above self and reaching out and helping others for the glory of God? Are we actually going to do that, or is it just words? Some of my other videos, I quoted Martin Luther King. A man dies when he doesn't stand up for what's right. A man dies when he doesn't stand up for truth. A man dies when he doesn't stand up for justice. And that's true. We die on the inside. We literally die. And he said, yes, when you do that, you risk being laughed at. You risk censorship. You risk not being elected. You risk getting fired. You risk personal loss, great personal loss. You risk personal injury. You risk jail time, imprisonment, and even death. But he said it's better to go through life with a scarred up body than go through life with a scarred up soul. This is what he says. The situation in Arizona, we have a constitutional crisis as well as a long-term care crisis. This right here, this book should be on the desk of every person that serves in government. And it should be required that they read it, okay? And when they take their oath of office to defend these rights that are in the Constitution, civil rights, patients' rights, human rights, constitutional rights, and they blatantly fail to honor their oath of office, then there needs to be a mechanism in place that holds them accountable. At the bare minimum, there should be sanctions and some sort of to be penalized somehow. And then, if they continue to remain silent, as our rights and freedoms continue to be trampled on, ignored, and just not even enforced, then they need to be removed from office. Not only that, charged and put in jail. I mean, this is what the process is. Not take an oath of office and it's more of a formality or a request. Oath of office is a demand by the citizens of this country and the states, a demand that they uphold their oath in defending our rights and freedoms, with a willingness to make sure government runs efficiently, make sure laws are enforced and people are protected. That's what it's all about. That's the problem here. My printer's broke, so I can't print out all of the rights and regulations. I did take a picture on my thing, and I sent you on text a picture of my screen here that has all the right. You could go to ChatGPT and ask that thing to provide you a short list of constitutional rights, civil rights, human rights, and patient rights that are federal, that protect long-term care patients from abuse, neglect, and mistreatment, and it'll show you. And then I urge you to send that to every person in government, including the governor, and demand that they uphold their oath of office to defend and uphold and enforce our rights. It's not happening. Like I said in the text, I spent 5 years contacting our elected officials, emailing every single one of them. It takes about an hour. Calling them on the phone, setting up phone call meetings, testifying at the state capitol, protesting. I'm not a rich man. I do yards, okay? I serve the Lord. I'm not rich at all. But we're barely making ends meet, but I've given my life to Christ to help reduce suffering in the world and to stand up for what's right. Proverbs 31, 8 and 9. This is what it reads. Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, for the rights of all who need an advocate. Speak up, judge righteously, defend the cause of the poor and needy. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing that, and I'm basically ignored by our elected officials, except you and a couple others. But we encourage our children, we encourage people of our state to be actively involved and to give input and to help in bringing things to our elected officials' attention so they can craft laws to make our state a better place to live. And when you get someone like me that does that, I get ignored. Just so you know, a lot of the patients that have wasted away and died, I love dearly. I'm the guy. No, Sonny, no. That's Sonny. Something fell in the thing. I'm the guy who has sat with these people, has cried bedside with them. I'm the guy that takes the call. No, Sonny, no. Sonny. I'm the guy that answers the phone when they haven't been changed for hours and they're in agony. I'm the guy that fights for them that they be treated more humanely. I'm the guy that holds their hand in ICU when they've been sent there because of things like E. coli, MRSA, bed sores, rashes, infections, bloody blisters, and other very serious complications. Landed them in ICU because there's less staff nights and weekends, and there's no enforcement. There's no state agencies going into these facilities nights and weekends to make sure there's enough staff. Well, I'm sorry. The 9th, the 8th, the 14th Amendment, and 2 others say that they have the right to be treated humanely, that they shouldn't wait hours to be changed or fed or medication be withheld from them, that they should not live in fear of being sexually and physically abused, raped, and beaten to death by abusive staff and by other mentally ill patients. I mean, come on, this is just absolutely insane. Here's the proof. I'm not making this stuff up. Where's the proof? Well, the proof is right here in a series of stories by the Arizona Republic, November 26, 2023. A year after the Audit General's audit of our health services, and in that audit it was uncovered that there was hundreds and hundreds of very serious complaints of sexual and physical abuse that were downgraded, dismissed without any investigation. Downgraded, dismissed without any of that. That is criminal. Sexually abused our loved ones. Okay? Think about it. Laying in the bed, suffering dearly, and along comes Mr. Scumbag and sexually abuses them, rapes them, and beats them. And what's the response? Nothing. No Arizona long-term care town hall meetings. No public hearings. Public hearings, not like the window dressing a committee that's co-chaired by Senator Dunn. All right? Real hearings that call in real witnesses, real experts, to get to the bottom of this and fix it. Not only that, have the U.S. Department of Justice come down here and clean house, because that's the mechanism. When a state fails to protect a certain sector of society, and their rights and freedoms are trampled on, and you don't have any enforcement from the governor on down, that's when the Justice Department's supposed to come in and say, hey, look, you can't do this. This document says that they're protected. That's how it's supposed to work. Well, it's not working that way at all. Where's the press conferences? Nowhere. Nobody wants to talk about this because both parties have blood on their hands, and they know it. The Republicans weakened the laws and regulations to such a degree it's now dangerous and people are dying. And the Democrats allowed them to do that. They didn't stand up to them and say, you can't do this. Both parties caved to the long-term care lobby and Big Pharma. Let's face it, that's the truth, okay? And the end result is this. This is after the audit. I could understand if the audit was after this, that this came out, and then we did an audit of the Arizona Health Services, and then everything comes out, and then we have hearings, and then we fix the problem. No, it's the opposite. The audit came out and exposed all this, and nothing happened for how long? A year. A year later, and now this comes out. Oh my God, that there's patients that are being sexually raped, not just sexually, but raped and beaten to death by mentally ill patients and by other abusive staff and by other mentally ill patients, raped and beaten to death, and the response by a so-called compassionate and kind, loving society is to put our heads in the sand and do nothing. Oh, that's what happened. It's a disgrace. And like I read in 15 other of my videos, senior care centers face little accountability when residents and staff are sexually assaulted. Front page, and this is a series of stories that are graphic. So this is about an 85-year-old woman who was raped and beaten into death. Think about that, 85, and this scumbag is so evil that he raped and beat this poor woman. And when she got up enough strength, she's crawling on the floor, gets to the staff office, and it's locked. Not only that, she's yelling and screaming for help, and nobody's around to help her. The place should have been shut down, and the owner should be put in prison. That's the mechanism. You say, well, you can't, there's not enough staff. Well, they can't find good staff. Well, there is a provision, a program in the state budget that calls for training up caregivers. So what do? You train them up. Good, compassionate, screened, loving, kind caregivers. And you train them up, and then you make it law that there needs to be at least 10 or 20 of these caregivers in each facility. Law. When you put them in there, now they're the eyes and ears for the state, and at least the place will be a little bit more accountable. Make it law that they can't have no 2 CNAs at night with 60 patients. That's inhumane. That is torture. The patients that are coma, semi-coma, or just can't communicate, they are waiting all night long to be changed. You know, Joanna was somebody I loved dearly, okay? And I cried so many tears that, I'm not going to cry right now. My heart's been broken so many times. It's a miracle I'm still alive. Joanna, someone I love dearly, all right? She had Parkinson's, and the medication makes your skin feel like it's on fire, okay? And so she had to have fans blowing on her constantly, all right? She was left in her pea-soaked bed. This is one of 100 stories I could tell you, more than that, over the last 16 years and the horrors that I've witnessed. She was left in her pea-soaked bed for hours, and she started going into hyperthermia. And the CNA came in, and what did she do? She turns off the fans and covers her. That's torture. That is neglect, abuse, and mistreatment. And what was the final verdict? Nothing. No arrests, no nothing. Because there's no mechanism in place to do anything about it. You know how I know that? Because I filed complaint after complaint after complaint with the Arizona Long-Term Care Licensing Department. I contacted the Arizona Long-Term Care Ombudsman, and I contacted the Arizona Long-Term Care Adult Protective Services. And the way our system of government works now is they've taken the teeth out of Adult Protective Services and the Ombudsman. Their teeth have been taken out. Back in the day, the Ombudsman comes in and actually arbitrates and fixes the problem. Those days are gone. Adult Protective Services is supposed to come in and remove the patient and charge somebody with a crime. That's not happening. So what is happening? The Arizona Long-Term Care Adult Protective Services, when a complaint's filed, we'll come in and do an investigation, and that report goes over to the Arizona Long-Term Care Licensing Department. And that's it. And if it's something simple, the patient needs a drink of water, or I went and told the charge nurse, they'll go and tell the staff. And the staff will say, okay, we're sorry, we'll try harder next time. And that's about all that happens. All right? Very rarely is a staff member fired. Very rarely are the police involved. Very rarely are there any arrests. Owners have immunity. Show me the last time an owner was arrested. The ombudsman does the same thing. They go in, they do an investigation, they send that report over to the Arizona Long-Term Care Licensing Department where because of the Audit General's 2002 audit, what happens to those reports? They're downgraded, dismissed without any investigation unless family members or an attorney puts their foot down. Well, these people can't afford an attorney. They can't even pick up a phone. A lot of them have no family members. State will only come in when a complaint is filed. If you don't have the mental capacity, physical capacity, family support to file a complaint, state ain't coming in. If state don't come in, how are they being protected under the law? They're not. They're not being protected under the law. It's like having a daycare with children, and the people that are running the daycare just leave for a few hours at a time and leave the children all alone. And there's laws in place that say you shouldn't do that. And then when the parents file a complaint, it's downgraded, dismissed without any investigation. That's basically, what we're dealing with here. Is this worth the paper it's printed on anymore? Is the Constitution, does it have the power that we say or think it does? I would think not. Because only the power of this piece of paper is only as strong as the people who we elect are willing to fight to make sure that these rights are upheld and enforced. And if they're not going to fight to make sure these rights are enforced and upheld, then we have a constitutional crisis in the state of Arizona. We have a system of government that picks and chooses what laws they're going to enforce. That's what we're dealing with right now. It's horrible. Patients I love that developed E. coli, MRSA, bed sores, rashes, infections, bloody blisters, and other serious complications that landed them in ICU and straight in the grave. And I'm the guy that holds their hand, prays for them, talks to their widows, talks to their family members during these horrors and after. I'm the guy, or was the guy. I got some family issues right now, and I've taken a little bit of a back seat. Because, to be frank, most, if not all, the patients that I love died. And some were very young, in their 50s and 40s, because of neglect, abuse, and mistreatment. Think about that. Patients that I loved died that are younger than me because of neglect, abuse, and mistreatment. During COVID, the patients were locked away in isolation without any visits by family or clergy for over a year. That's a violation of their constitutional rights, civil rights, patients' rights, and human rights. To have someone who loves them by their side to protect and love them while sick and suffering. Why? To prevent medical mistakes. To make sure that their medical wishes are being honored. To make sure to prevent neglect, abuse, and mistreatment, rapes, and beatings by abusive staff and by other mentally ill patients, violent mentally ill patients. To be in that room to calm the patient down because the staff doesn't have time to sit with a patient for an hour or two like I do, because it takes a while to calm a patient down, get them back on good footing mentally, and be at peace in their environment. And when you take that out of the equation, you have a recipe for depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, worry, doubt, fear, and along comes the antidepressants and psych meds. And their argument was we have to protect the patient from the virus. My argument is, who's protecting the patients from abusive staff and from other mentally ill, violent patients? Nobody. And when they took us out, all the witnesses are gone. So now if you have a patient that's waiting hours to be changed with no family support, they got away with it. Millions died all alone in isolation. Millions. Where was the flag at half-mast for the millions that died during COVID? It's nowhere. You know, this died. The American people don't realize it yet. The Constitution died because there's very few people willing to fight and stand up for what's right. And we have a system now where unless you have millions of dollars and could hire attorneys to stand up for your rights, we don't have rights. Because you can explain to me that when the patients that I love and my own rights were violated during COVID, where am I supposed to go? Where are we supposed to go? Well, we went to our elected officials, and basically it took a year before they realized that they need to allow us in. And the reason why that was is because I contacted the chairwomen of the Health and Human Services Committee on the House and Senate side, talked to them on the phone, told them that you need to have at least one Healthy Screen family member in there, Healthy Screen family member by appointment, at least one, and clergy, Healthy Screened clergy to get in there to get a lid on things and calm these people down because it's their constitutional rights, civil rights, patient's right, and human right. And they got the ball moving. And eventually the regulations were changed where that was allowed. You're looking at the guy that had a hand in doing that, all for the glory of God. And so when I had the regulations, I needed them in my hand in order to get back into the facility where me and Pastor Ken go. And when I had those regulations in my hand, and I was in constant contact with their office, so I had to have those regulations. This is how I knew I had a hand in it. Okay? I was directly involved. I contacted the facility and said, you know what, me and Pastor Ken were going to come down and see Pastor Sean, and they didn't want to let us in, so I called the regional compliance director of the parent company for the entire Western United States, and she was hemming and hawing too, and I said, look, on Friday morning, me and Pastor Ken are coming down to the facility. We're going to go and see Pastor Sean. If you refuse to let us in, we're immediately going to file a complaint with the Arizona Long-Term Care Licensing Department, at which point a surveyor is going to come out on site and you'll be heavily fined. And within an hour, we had a visitation plan. That's how you defend your rights. Not because if we had went there and they said, oh, no, we're still working on that. You can't go, oh, okay, I'll be back in 6 months, okay? Because that's what they want you to do. And then there's more to the story. I'm running out. I got the whole COVID unit shut down because they were out of compliance for 3 months. And then when I filed the complaint on behalf of the patients and their family members, it took 5 years for our health department to respond, which is an absolute disgrace. No complaint should have to wait 5 years for a response. Now, I'm not 100% sure that was the complaint because the lady on the phone didn't tell me what the complaint was for. But if it wasn't for the fact that the COVID unit was out of compliance for 3 months and it was actually for a patient, then all the more reason to be absolutely outraged, because then the patient dies and then I get notified 5 years later. That is cruel. That is criminal. It needs to be investigated and it needs to be fixed. All right. I have met many of our elected officials. Okay. Many just give me lip service. They know if they stand up to the industry, they ain't going to be reelected. They know that their party bosses are not going to want them to be talking about this issue because the finger of blame comes to every single one of us, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and even me, Chaplain Paul, for not doing enough to fight to defend for our loved ones' rights and our loved ones' lives who are suffering dearly. And so, no disrespect. I get very passionate when I talk about these things. I have the utmost respect for you, and I wish you well. I'm always here if you want prayer or, anything, if you need my services. But, unless this gets a handle on and our rights are protected and enforced, there's really nothing more I can do except tell people, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just telling people in my circle of influence, and I'm focused on serving my Lord by having a willingness of helping others, placing service above self and reaching out and helping others for the glory of God with a compassionate heart, listening ear, and a helpful hand, being the good Samaritan to the people around me. And I wish you all the best. And remember, just like Pastor Sean always used to say, Jesus loves you and so do I. Be the light, be a light of compassion, kindness, and hope in a very dark and evil world. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.